There is a voice in your head. It speaks constantly. It comments on what you see. It comments on what you do. It comments on what you could have done better. It reminds you of embarrassing moments. It predicts failure. It compares you to others. And for most of your life, you assumed that voice was you. It isn't. Let's slow this down. If that voice was you, you wouldn't be able to hear it. The fact that you can observe it means there is something separate from it, something aware of it. And that changes everything. The voice in your head is not your identity. It is a psychological construct. It was built layer by layer. When you were a child, you didn't have this constant narration. You experienced the world directly. But then something happened. You were corrected. You were judged. You were praised. You were compared. And slowly, the mind created a narrator, a commentator, a system designed to monitor behavior, to avoid rejection, to avoid danger, to avoid shame. That voice is a survival mechanism, not your essence. Here's the uncomfortable part. That voice is not designed to make you happy. It is designed to keep you safe. And safety, psychologically, means avoiding pain. So the voice scans constantly. What could go wrong? What will they think? What if you fail? What if you look stupid? It thinks anxiety equals preparation. It thinks self-criticism equals improvement. It thinks replaying the past equals learning. But most of the time, it just creates noise. Notice something subtle. The voice rarely speaks in calm neutrality. It pushes, it pressures, it evaluates. It says, you should be further by now. You're behind. You're not enough. You're wasting time. And because it uses your own internal tone, you believe it. But tone does not equal truth. Here's something most people never question. Why does the voice sound like me? Because it uses your language, your memories, your references. But it's just recycling data. It's predictive, pattern-based, reactive. It is not conscious intention. It is automated commentary, like background software running on your mind. And you mistook it for identity. Now let's go deeper. The voice becomes stronger when you're uncertain. Uncertainty triggers threat detection. Threat detection activates internal narration. Internal narration tries to regain control. But the more it talks, the more fragmented you feel. Because constant internal commentary splits your attention. Instead of experiencing life directly, you experience your thoughts about life. And that creates exhaustion. That's why you can feel tired even when you did nothing, because mental narration burns energy. Self-monitoring, self-evaluating, self-correcting, nonstop. Imagine someone following you all day, commenting on every move you make. That's what most people live with, inside their own head. Here is the critical turning point. You do not need to silence the voice. You do not need to fight it. You do not need to destroy it. You need to recognize it. The moment you see it as a mechanism, it loses authority, because authority comes from identification. When you believe, this is me, it controls you. When you see this is a process, you gain distance, and distance creates freedom. Try this. Right now, wait for the next thought to appear. Don't create one. Just wait. Observe. There it is. A sentence, a comment, an image. Now ask yourself, did you choose that thought? Or did it appear? If it appeared, who noticed it? That noticing presence is closer to who you are than the thought itself. This is not philosophy. It's cognitive psychology. Thoughts are events, not identity. The brain produces them automatically, just like it produces impulses and predictions. You don't identify with your heartbeat. You don't identify with your digestion. But you identify with your thoughts. Why? Because they use language. And language feels personal. But automatic does not mean intentional. Now here's the danger. When you fuse with the voice, it defines your limits. I'm not confident. I'm bad at this. I always fail. I'm not that type of person. Those are not truths. They are repeated narratives. And repetition creates belief. Belief creates behavior. Behavior reinforces narrative. That loop can run for years without being questioned. But the loop breaks the moment awareness enters. When a thought says, "You're going to fail," and instead of reacting, you observe it, the pattern weakens. Because it requires participation, the voice cannot act alone. It needs your belief. It needs your emotional agreement. Without that, it becomes background noise. This doesn't mean you become passive. It means you become intentional. Instead of reacting from narration, you act from clarity. There is a difference between "I feel anxious, so I won't do it," and "Anxiety is present, and I will." In the second case, you are not the voice. You are the one choosing. That shift is power. Most people try to improve the voice. They try positive affirmations. They try to argue with it. They try to replace it. But that keeps you inside the same system. You don't need a better narrator. You need less identification. Silence is not created by force. It appears when attachment drops. The voice will continue. It may criticize. It may doubt. It may predict. Let it. You don't need to stop the weather. You just stop believing you are the storm. There is a version of you beneath the narration. Calm, observant, unforced. That version doesn't need constant commentary. It acts. It adjusts. It learns. Without drama. That's not becoming someone new. That's removing confusion. So next time the voice says, "You're not enough," pause. Don't argue. Just notice. And ask, "Who heard that?" Stay there. That's you, not the voice. And the more you return to that position, the less control the narrator has. Not because you defeated it, but because you stopped mistaking it for yourself. And that is where real mental strength begins.